Claims that up to 5,000 steel bars at Hong Kong Station were cut short. In Turkey, a second round of voting that will determine how powerful the next president will be. Tens of thousands join an anti-Brexit rally in London.
Hello, good evening. Legislator Michael Tien today dropped another bombshell in the controversy surrounding the MTR's Sha Tin to Central link. He said he learned from sources that a fifth of the 26,000 steel bars supporting a platform level in the Hong Kong Station expansion project were cut short. Just how many steel bars were cut short at Hong Kong Station and not screwed into couplers? Here's a recap. The MTR Corporation said no more than 21. But according to legislator Michael Tien, frontline workers told him it could be as many as 5,000. That's around 20% of the steel bars used to connect a slab with diaphragm walls and support an extra platform level at Hong Kong Station.
They may pass the loading test, the stress test and the load test today. But in 3 years, 5 years, 7 years' time, you'll have problems. There will be cracks. There may even be slightly deformation of the level of the platform.
The former KCRC chairman said experts mentioned ways to strengthen the diaphragm walls without knocking the entire structure down.
Forget about pride, forget about whatever, reputation. Just get the thing done right now.
In response, the MTR Corporation quoted an incident report earlier submitted to the government and said Leighton Asia has completed all jobs in accordance with contract specifications. It's now relying on a government-appointed independent investigation committee to figure out any areas which remain unclear. The Highways Department refused to comment further, citing the case has already been reported to police. Perhaps more will be revealed before Tuesday, as Leighton must hand in a report to the government by then. A top official said 2 bridge columns found to be sinking near the West Rail's Yuen Long station has no impact on train safety. Director of Electrical and Mechanical Services Alfred Sid didn't go into details on how safety can be ensured. Asked if the authorities were notified instantly of the sinking, he said his department, as well as the Buildings Department, always knew real estate developments may affect the nearby railway. The MTR Corporation realized the columns had sunk 20 millimeters in 2013.
A light aircraft crashed in Tai Po this afternoon, leaving its pilot injured. Rescuers were sent to Ma Shi Chao after receiving news of the crash. Police received a report for help from the pilot at around 4 p.m. He was the only one on board the plane. He sustained face injuries and was sent to hospital for treatment.
Voting is underway in Turkey's presidential and parliamentary elections that could consolidate President Recep Tayyip Erdogan's grip on power or give his opponents a lifeline to curb his ambitions. The elections will complete Turkey's transition to a new executive presidential system, a move approved in the controversial referendum last year. Erdogan is seeking re-election for a new 5-year term with hugely increased powers under the new system. He insists this will bring prosperity and stability to Turkey, especially after a failed coup attempt in 2016 that has left the country under a state of emergency since then. His ruling Justice and Development Party, or AKP, is hoping to retain its majority in Parliament.
Tens of thousands of anti-Brexit protesters marched in London to demand a new referendum on leaving the European Union. It comes as a divided Britain marked the second anniversary of its controversial vote to quit the bloc.
They gathered in the tens of thousands, from all 4 corners of the UK, from all walks of life, all united by one concern: Brexit. 2 years since the historic referendum that saw Britain vote narrowly to leave the European Union, the country has staggered its way through complex negotiations, while continuing to be divided domestically about the merits of Brexit. There are growing fears that no deal of substance will be reached before the UK leaves in March, jeopardising everything from the economy to the peace process in Northern Ireland. One of the organisers of yesterday's rally in central London summed up why so many felt compelled to march.
People are angry. They're angry that the government are making a mess about Brexit, and they feel that promises made, most infamously about more money for the NHS, are not going to be kept. And that's why you'll see tens of thousands of people marching on Parliament and asking for a people's vote on the final Brexit deal.
The People's Vote campaign argues that public opinion is turning against Brexit as the economic costs become clearer and want a referendum on the final deal reached as Britain leaves the EU. But neither of Britain's two main political parties back the idea of holding a referendum on the final deal. As yet, there's no certainty about what the final deal could look like amid continued infighting in Prime Minister Theresa May's Conservative government, as well as among some of its opponents about what they want when Britain leaves the EU next year. Leading Brexit supporters, meanwhile, warn the British government not to delay or water down the divorce from the trading bloc. British Foreign Secretary Boris Johnson said the Prime Minister must deliver the full British Brexit that those who voted to leave were seeking.
The US Homeland Security Department said Washington has reunited 522 children separated from adults as part of a zero-tolerance initiative. Authorities say they plan on reuniting at least another dozen children today. This comes as US President Donald Trump continued to press his anti-immigration stance. Jeff Tang reports.
US President Donald Trump was in Las Vegas yesterday to press his tough anti-illegal immigration stance before supporters, portraying himself as the toughest against illegal immigration. This as he tried to boost one-time critic Dean Heller's chances of getting re-elected in Nevada in hopes of expanding Republicans' 51-49 Senate majority in the November congressional elections. However, he failed to mention that he caved under public pressure, including from members of his family, to end the practice of separating immigrant children from their families after they illegally crossed the US-Mexico border. A huge public backlash over the images of youngsters in cages at border processing facilities forced Trump to reverse course and sign an executive order to end the policy.
I mean, everybody sees, but this is the same site that Obama had, that Bush had, same site. It's the same thing. In fact, they said, look at this site, look at President Trump, look at this picture. Excuse me, it was 2014, it was President Obama, okay? Our people are actually doing a very good job handling a very difficult situation, but this is a problem that should have been solved years ago. So we're working very hard. The fact is we need more Republicans because the Democrats are obstructionists.
The U.S. Immigration and Customs Enforcement Agency has dedicated the Port Isabel Service Processing Center in Texas as the primary family reunification center. However, the HHS says a small number of children will remain separated if the familial relationship cannot be confirmed, the adult is believed to be a threat to the child's safety, or the adult is a criminal alien. Jeff Tang, TVB News.
And still ahead tonight. 6 arrested in a scam targeting job applicants. New Zealand's Prime Minister's baby daughter appears in public.
People were arrested for allegedly defrauding job applicants. 16 victims reported to the police in April this year, claiming they went to a shopping mall for their job interview. They were asked to hand over their ID cards and proof of address for photocopying, but the documents were never returned to them. Some victims also had their bank cards taken away. The victims alerted the police. The fraudsters were later found to have used the information to borrow money from banks and finance companies, amounting to a total of more than $1 million. Well, invest $120,000 and see your returns quadruple. That's what people were promised when they invested on a social media platform purportedly listed in the UK. It's estimated that as many as 400 local residents are affected by what's now suspected as a fraud scheme, which involves some $40 million. Christy Lang reports.
These people learned the hard way that it is not that easy to make money. They only realized after this mobile app stopped working. It belongs to a company which was marketed as a listed firm in England with awards from the United Nations and an office in Hong Kong. Users were promised their investments would quadruple in a short period of time after paying $120,000 to set up an account.
They were guaranteed $54 a day by generating web traffic by sending and receiving messages.
And more money for referrals. Celebrities were taking part in it, and there was a lucky draw for Mercedes, said this woman who put in more than $800,000. Of a projected return of $3 million, she only managed to withdraw $70,000 before the company shut down its business in April last year. She's one of around 30 people who reached out to lawmaker Ben Chan for help. Another person's investment of $2 million was converted into shares in a UK-listed company now worth just $800. The legislator estimates the scheme involved as many as 400 Hong Kong investors and a total amount of around $40 million.
Ben Chan is urging the government to step up the regulation of pyramid selling schemes.
The alleged victims took their complaints to the police and hope they will be able to recover some of the money. Christy Leung, TVB News.
Industrialist Sunny Chia is set to replace Fanny Law as the new chairperson of the Science Park. Caleb Leung has more on what Chia wants to achieve in the role.
The government earlier reshuffled the leadership of the Hong Kong Science and Technology Parks, a public corporation set up in 2001 to foster innovation and technology in Hong Kong. Industrialist Sunny Chai will become the new chairperson in July. Chai pledged to be fair and take a broad approach to the job.
When we discuss these strategic directions, it's a discussion among the board and our top management. And sometimes we consult with expert panels or even industry associations. My background is neutral in Science Park.
He will replace Fanny Law, who was at the helm for 4 years and recognized for her research on innovative technology policies. Chai admitted that's not his expertise.
Contributing in policy studies is not what I've done before, but if different bureaus
唔想同曱甴捉伊人，用殺他死速效殺蟲噴霧，採用日本配方，強力集中噴射，迅速殺滅曱甴。仲有佢殺他死煙霧殺蟲劑，藥力徹底滲入罅隙，安全有效，全靠殺他死，曱甴冇定期，仲有寵物安全配方添。
Or IDC, IDB, or chief executives list my opinion, I'll be happy to do so.
Here's what Chai hopes to achieve with $10 billion in funds earmarked to advance artificial intelligence, robotics, and biotechnology.
We plan to attract 7 to 10 institutes to build 7 to 10 labs in Hong Kong in these two areas. Science Park is the front end to deal with these institutes. So the money will be used for the building of the infrastructure of these labs and also on help them on the running costs in these 5 years.
As the money will be used to run the labs, Chai is certain the funding will benefit the local economy. Caleb Leung, TVB News.
By 2036, about a third of Hong Kong's population will be senior citizens. With an ageing population becoming a pressing issue, courses on elderly care are now offered to foreign domestic helpers to cope with growing demand. Kena Chiu has more.
These domestic helpers just completed a 64 training program on caregiving for senior citizens. The course, taught by registered nurses, was offered by a domestic helper agency. For a fee of $2,200, domestic helpers can learn elderly care knowledge and skill sets including feeding and first aid.
This is a great achievement for me, as well as this is a great advantage. Actually, the most impressive skills I got from here is the CPR and then the positioning of the patient, because in my everyday routine on my work, I'm doing that.
After taking the course, the monthly salary of domestic workers may be increased by $500 to $1,000 if they get hired as a caregiver. With rising demand and better job prospects, the course's organizer said participant numbers rose from 15 in the first year to today's 231 over the course of 3 years.
The trend is actually growing exponentially, but I think because here in Hong Kong, it's just that a lot of elderly people need to be taken care of right now. A lot more Hong Kong people look for a lot of workers that has formal educations or educated in this area, or they have actual caregiver experience. So I think anything that they can do to upgrade themselves towards this trend would certainly help their prospect.
The government also started a pilot scheme this month. The 18-month program should train 300 domestic helpers on elderly care. Kena Chu, TVB News.
Well, Labour and Welfare Secretary Law Chi Kwong apologised on his blog for the delayed implementation of extending the paternity leave from 3 days to 5. The government earlier tabled a bill to the legislature and wanted it passed before Legico's summer break. The implementation date is now expected to be pushed back to around Lunar New Year in 2019. The delay was caused by the setting up of a Bills Committee to deliberate on the matter. Lawmaker Fernando Cheung wanted to extend the leave to 7 days, hence demanding the setting up of the committee. Overseas again, New Zealand Prime Minister Jacinda Ardern and her partner Clark Gayford have named their baby daughter Neve. Ardern made her first public appearance today since giving birth to her daughter on Thursday. She answered a few questions from reporters while holding her baby at Auckland City Hospital before returning home. She'll take 6 weeks of leave before returning to work. Ardern is just the second elected world leader to give birth while holding office.
Women drivers in Saudi Arabia took to the roads today, ending the world's last ban on female drivers. The ban on female drivers was long seen as an emblem of women's repression in the conservative Muslim kingdom. The ban's end is part of sweeping reforms pushed by Crown Prince Mohammed bin Salman in a bid to transform the economy of the world's top oil exporter. The lifting of the prohibition was welcomed by the West as proof of a new progressive trend in Saudi Arabia. And that's the news.
Thanks for watching. Bye-bye.